Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to YouTube Live. Today with me is a special guest from EF Dawah, Ben. Assalamu alaikum, Ben.
Walaikum salam. How are you?
How are you doing?
Yeah,
You've got a
alhamdulillah,
nice
good.
shirt on there. Could you show us?
Yeah, do you know what? I put this on this morning just because it's on the top of my drawer. I was like, oh, I don't want to be pretentious. Like, yeah, EF Dawah, I'm going on live. And then I even asked Jordan, I was like, should I swap my shirt? I was like, no, I can't be bothered. But
Yeah.
alhamdulillah.
My only complaint is the EF guys haven't given me one yet. That's my complaint.
Well, you gotta come hang out with us and you might get one.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. I haven't seen Hamza in possibly 2 years. I've
Wow.
obviously spoke to him, I've interacted with him, but because I go to Speaker's Corner like once in a blue moon, and he goes to Speaker's Corner once, I think, every 6 weeks.
Yeah.
We always miss each other. You know?
Yeah, well, if you think back, when was the last conversation you had at Speaker's Corner? Or is this something you've already talked about in your live streams? I know you're doing them every day now.
The last conversation I had was in Speaker's Corner just about 6 weeks ago, for a month ago, roughly.
Oh, right.
Okay. Yeah. And funnily enough, I was talking to people who are protesting against feminism, right?
Okay.
So they were talking
I remember watching that actually. Yeah, that was really good.
Yeah,
that's a good conversation, mashallah.
Yeah, it's also funny because this woman turned up, right? I had no idea she was a missionary, yeah. And she kept trying to steer the conversation to certain things in Islam, Sharia law. I just thought she was just an average visitor, so I was just being super. Obviously, you should be nice to everyone, but I was just like, trying to slowly. Then later on in the conversation, I should realize, oh my God, she's a hardcore missionary, and I don't like dealing with missionaries because they're just like they're not really there to listen, to be honest. Yeah?
No.
Her name is Kay.
Yeah, I know who you mean. Yeah.
And then afterwards, I saw a video of her and Adnan and her and other people. I was like, oh my God, this is a missionary. I thought she was just some average woman who's just very opinionated.
Tell you what, she's quite polite though compared to the others.
Yeah, definitely. But I did find her very much like, because I was having a nice conversation. I was trying to steer it in a direction. She kept trying to bring it to things in Sharia. And then when I was trying to describe to her early Christianity and how they believed in God being one, that's when she went full missionary mode and started speaking about the Holy Ghost and the presence and how it gives her certainty. And I was like, oh my God, it's a born again. Born agains are so hard.
They believe because they feel it.
Yeah, they feel it. Definitely, they feel it. So just for the viewers, Ben is actually from my home city, Oxford, and I just found out he lives literally where I used to live, just one street away. So how's Oxford as a city? Because you came obviously from outside and you came.
Yeah, so I grew up in a little small market town. I moved to Oxford to get my first job, really, my first big job. It's beautiful. When I now visit other cities, majority of other cities anyway, I just don't feel as happy, and I don't know why. And then I realise when I look around, it's because the buildings, it's depressing, and Oxford's buildings make you just happy. Beautiful spires, medieval style, it's beautiful. I really love living here. It's really nice, yeah.
Yeah, and things like, for example, the town centre. I remember as a kid, we used to go there and we were like, just like, oh yes, the town. We had no a special affinity towards it. But then when we left it, we recognized, oh my God, this is like a world-class city. And that old building that we just considered was just some old building, that's like 1,000-year-old church. And you have the Oxford University and it's old buildings. So I mean the tourists and the people outside of Oxford, they obviously love it. But then when you're living there, you just don't think.
You get used to it though. You don't know what you've got until it's gone.
Yes.
And that's what I felt like, because when I moved to Oxford, I didn't really care about that sort of stuff. And I grew up, but I was 19 when I moved there, so I became an adult there. And then when I went and visited other places and stuff like that, it was just a bit. I didn't know why I liked Oxford, and then I realised it was because just the atmosphere, history. I love history. And I once went on a tour around Oxford, because you never do it. You never go on a tour in your own area. Now, subhanAllah, it goes all the way back to the Saxons.
Yes.
So yeah, it's really cool.
And what's special as well is that I find the people of Oxford are probably some of the kindest people in the UK. They're not judgmental. They're very much like pro Muslim, right? I mean, all the time I was there, I was completely comfortable. And what was also good is that the relationship between the Muslim community and the non-Muslim community is absolutely fine. I mean, non-Muslims, they visit the mosques. Everyone gets along. It's quite a lefty city. There's a lot of Marxists, a lot of socialists, pro-Palestinians. Like the pro-Palestinian thing in Oxford is huge. You see all these.
There's always people on Saturday, like doing doing their dawah.
Yeah.
Alhamdulillah, yeah, it is pro-Palestinian. Yeah, I mean, it attracts young people, it attracts foreign students, it attracts students in general. So it's like young people are normally more liberal and like lefty and accepting. So alhamdulillah, you're right. You feel completely comfortable being a Muslim, even though most people don't know I'm a Muslim.
Yeah. I mean,
big old beard.
Yeah, a lot of people in Oxford have beards. I wanted to start off with, so why I wanted you to come onto the live stream for a few reasons. Like I mentioned in my previous live stream, is we obviously want people who are close to Islam watching this to start thinking, do you know what? He's a normal average white guy like I am, right? And, you know, Islam's not just for Asian people or Arab people or black people. It's for everybody, right? So there's that element, but there's also the element that we want Muslims to take action. So I want us to trace back a few steps here. So firstly, I found out you're obviously living in Oxford and that you were basically an atheist. And that was surprising because atheism is very strong in Oxford, right? You get a lot of it there. Now, in terms of working, like you work in the town centre, I think, you know, and that sort of place, and you got a stable job. You're living in a relatively safe place in a comfortable environment. And usually it's been my understanding that for somebody who's an atheist, who's comfortable, right, his atheism is fueled by comfort and the comfort fuels his atheism. And there needs to be an awakening, right? There needs to be something that makes you think, man, I need to think about my life, I need to do something. So that's what I want to first understand from you. Like, what made you go from that comfort zone to, hang on, I need to start thinking of man, life, and the universe and these big questions?
So, I mean, I've really thought and pondered about this. And I think the biggest reason why I was an atheist was, to be honest, arrogance. I felt very, bloody religious people, you know, that sort of, I had that attitude. I used to love watching debates with atheists and religious people, and I love seeing the hitch slap, for example. But one day I watched a debate with a Muslim and an atheist, and I knew about Islam a little bit, like the fundamentals, but the atheist seemed to have lost, and it kind of broke down that. Because that's the foundation. That was my foundation. That, I think subconsciously it was. Obviously, there was intellectual reasons. I was intellectual, like I was logically thinking about it and stuff, and I can come with arguments. But the cornerstone was the arrogance, and that broke down that arrogance, which made me question myself, and it brought me back a bit to be humble. So I basically rethought my position. I was like, why? Like, okay, but basically, I ended up thinking that, well, there could have been something that started the universe, and what would those attributes be of that thing that did that? And it just slowly tickled, like, and I thought, yeah, there probably is a God, but whatever. I was 19. No, I wasn't 19. I must have been 21, 22 at that point. And then it was, I think with people that convert to Islam, it's a lot of little things that build up. And yeah, so I mean, I'm going off on a rant, but the original question was, what was that thing that took me out of my comfort zone? Now I think it was you don't know it all, mate. What? And so yeah, and it made me rethink. And I think I'm always very conscious about trying to improve myself to my best ability. Sometimes I'm a bit slack, but So actually, the reason I drew towards Islam was because of like the philosophy of when you obey Allah, you come within sync with the creation. And you're doing what you're meant to do. There's always something in me that's like, yeah, but what the meaning for everything. So what's the point? It's always in the back of your head. And with Islam, it's do these things, and then you're in, and you've got you're living the point of existence. And yeah, that it's a big whole story about how I got there. But yeah. Which debate am I referring to? Do you know what? I can't remember which debate it was, but it was Hamza Torsis.
No way.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. So it was Hamza Torsis, and that brought. So that's obviously because and then I looked him up. Then it like rumbled with Iqra videos and YouTube, and then I got some literature. It took years, but now I'm Muslim. So yeah,
that's great. And the reason why I'm really happy you said that is because sometimes I doubt myself the effectiveness of debates, simply from the perspective that, of course, we can win those debates, but then I sometimes think, and I look at myself in the debate as being putting down the atheist and this and that, and I just think, okay, do you know what? It's going to probably make people think, you're not winning the hearts here, you're just winning the argument. And so sometimes I start doubting the importance of debates. And then other times I'm thinking, no, it does have a position. And now you just said this, and I'm like, wow.
It is really important, I think, because the majority of people hold their world beliefs and their opinions and what goggles they're wearing, their reality, through a mix of emotion and like reasoning. So what debates do is slap the reasoning, and all they're left with is an emotion. And if you're an atheist, you can't do that, because then you're just a airy fairy, like, oh, happy days, that sort of thing. So it makes you question yourself. If you're the sort of person that self-reflects, I wasn't. When I was a teenager, I was into punk and stuff, and that's why my atheism got really strong, because of that, I think. And yeah, like I wasn't about questioning myself, I was about questioning everyone else. And then I matured a bit and started to question myself and tried to better myself. And then that made me think, well, why are you this? Why are you doing that? Yeah.
And you're talking about that whole scene of punk rock and listening to that type of music and also being an atheist. I mean, I felt that. I felt a lot of people, they fall into this subculture of music which is rebellious. Like what's his name, Marilyn Manson, I'm not a slave to a God that doesn't exist. That's one of the lyrics from his song. Or, what's the name of that guy from Firestarter?
Thingy from Prodigy.
Prodigy, yeah. He was an atheist. Yeah,
But,
and he was an atheist, and he just topped himself last year. I mean, it's really sad, but these are the people we grew up watching and thinking, these people, But then you just realize it's all nonsense. It's all literally
when you're an atheist and an agnostic, really, sometimes even cultural Christians or cultural religion, you make up your meaning. You get right. What's the meaning of life? To make up your meaning and to pursue it. But then, if you hit that goal, what next?
Yeah.
What next? Or what? Who are you to tell? Like what? Who are you to actually make up a meaning? Like, what does that mean? Anything? That meaning you've made up? It's really deep. There's a lot of deep philosophy that made me question myself and what I believed and look to the truth. The first time I read the Quran, I read it to scrutinize it, basically. And when it says if you try to look for error, that's what you're going to find. So Allah doesn't. If you're not sincere, Allah doesn't guide. And I wasn't sincere when I first picked up the Quran. I didn't get anything from that. In fact, I was like, because I was an anti-authoritarian. I hated that idea of a master. You have to worship me. That's the point. I hated that idea, and because I didn't think deeply with it, I just imagined it as a superhero man in the sky, like, you know what I mean? That's what most, when you're a kid and like when you're a white kid in England, the religion is Christianity, and what you see is a old bearded white man in the sky with clouds and stuff. Look, it's the sky daddy, isn't it? And that's what you think religion is.
Yeah, Father Ted Christianity.
Yeah. I don't know who it was, but I do think Christianity's like fueled atheism big time.
Really?
In this country. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. A lot of people who do dawah think that most British people are Christian, and then white British people, sorry, and they're not. They might say, yeah, Church of England. They're not. They don't. They're either agnostic or atheist. And if you are Christian, you're a weirdo. In my culture, you're Bible basher. A bit. Don't hang out with him. He'll try and drag you to the church, mate. You know, that sort of idea. That's from my experience anyway. My culture, my like working class white background, that's what it is. Like Hamza says, you're taught religion is a bit of a joke. So I think what atheism does is it comes with some reasoning and ridicule. It goes, look at these people believing, you might as well believe in ghosts and magic, you know. and that's what it's not thought of as a deep way of thinking, connecting to why we exist and so on like that. It's always about a myth. Like atheism's about ridiculing a myth, and they're pointing at you and saying what you believe is a myth, and you're stupid, and that's the fuel of it. And I think it's because a lot of Christians believe because they feel it rather than they're intellectually convinced. All right, and you can believe anything and feel it. Like so it's easy to refute Christianity, and when you have that stance, if that's your reasons for believing in something, then it's rubbish. It's not you. It's no foundation, and that's what atheists first fought against, was that those sort of Christians, probably because of like American atheists. That's who they had to deal with, and I think that's why back when I became a Muslim, or even earlier, atheists had a hard time with Islam because they didn't know anything about it. So that's why I think that a lot of atheists were losing debates with Islam, because they had a different angle. All that subjective stuff, it's nothing with Islam, and they're caught back. And I think now they're learning more about Islam, and they're trying to look in and turn in, and, you know,
Yeah, I mean, you're definitely right about that. That, you know, that's one of the problems with atheists, that they just think Islam is just purely Christianity with a bit of brownness. It's just
they do,
slightly different. So this atheist, his name's I can't pronounce it, so I just call him HC. I think it's a Greek name. So he comes on the live YouTube stream pretty much every day. Very intelligent guy, very honest guy, very nice guy. And he's asking you, Ben Iqra, what advice would you have for an atheist like me?
I think you, when I say this, you'll probably go, yeah, I do that already. But just question yourself, mate. Just go, right, why do I really believe this? You know, and that's it. Like, whatever. If you're not open, or if your intentions are to boost your ego when you look at other religions or other ways of thinking, not even saying about Islam now, anything else. If you're going with your sword and shield to defeat this idea because I know what's best, you've already lost, mate. That's it. But I'm not saying that as if I'm better than you and know more about you, but I'll just say, question yourself, man. Try and refute yourself.
Okay, what about this? Like, I've had a conversation with HC before, and he'll go down these really deep philosophical ideas, which are going to be hair splitting, and then there's hair splitting on top of hair splitting, and then we're going. And what I advised him is to just go back to basics and be humble and try to pray to God. Now, he was sort of like a bit, he wasn't ruling it out. I mean, I don't remember exactly what his words were, but he was kind of like, well, I need a rational justification for spirituality rather than me just believing spirituality. So what would you advise him in that case?
The thing is, has he told you what sort of atheist he is? What's his ideas about reality and stuff? Everyone's different. I can't really give someone advice without knowing. Normally, if someone goes, Ben, what do you reckon about it? I'll ask them loads of open questions and find out, like, rather than just go, I reckon this, because who am I to tell someone just a generic thing? It matters what their like worldview is, really.
Okay, so HT, while we continue, just type down what your worldview is, so Ben can actually try and.
Because if you said he's coming on every day, to be honest, mate, it's a bit weird being an atheist, yeah, and then going and watching a Muslim channel every day. You know what I mean? Why is that?
I mean, till today, he hasn't made any insulting comments.
Yeah, alhamdulillah, that's awesome.
And he's always making academic. If he does critique what we're saying, he only does it academically. That's cool. Which is why I like him, because
that's cool.
It's a nice conversation, you know.
Because you want to be challenged as well, don't you? Want, like, you need to know why. Like, you need to know why you're a Muslim, and if there's something you don't know about Islam or philosophy, just tackle it, man. Have a look. That's that. From what I've done with that, I've by questioning what I believe all the time. That's why I'm where I am now. Yeah. Funnily enough, sat here as a Muslim. So
yeah, definitely. I want to take you back a few steps to what Jundullah, who inshallah we're going to have as well soon in a couple of days to a live stream. He's a revert brother, and we were talking about obviously the perception of Christianity, and like being from a white background doesn't mean you're Christian. It just means Christianity is seen as quite backward. Now he said we go from school nativity plays with Jesus and lovely little songs to secondary school with science and rationality, basically big boy thinking. And I think a lot of us felt that. A lot of us felt that. You have this Christianized thing, and then when you're getting slightly older, it's like, yeah, it's all nonsense. Did you feel that shift?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, when I was a kid, I think I stopped fully believe, like in my, I was socialized to be an atheist. My parents aren't religious. It was ridiculed all through my life, and I believed in Jesus when I was like 6, and went to Sunday school because my mum didn't want to like look after me during the holidays and stuff. But eventually, because everyone around me is saying negative things about religion, all the adults around me, things, and it's like, well, you're telling me this, but all the people I love and respect say it's rubbish, so it's probably rubbish. So that plants the seed of because so I still struggle. Your chat with Jordan the other day, I think it was yesterday, wasn't it? And he was talking about people reject God. Atheists are rejecting God and hating God, and they're like subconscious. I honestly don't think I was like, I proper didn't believe in God. Do you know what I mean? It's not like I subconsciously went, I hate him, man. He did something bad to me. I really didn't believe in God at all. And it was really hard to actually. I remember the first dua I did, and I just felt so awkward because I was that disconnected. Because when you're born, like in the Muslim belief, is when you're born a Muslim. So your natural disposition is to believe that there's one creator, yeah. And it's your family and your socialization that take you away from that. That's exactly what happened to me. Exactly. Everyone around me doesn't believe in God, and the ones that do believe in God in my circles were the weirdos. It's simple as that. So. Yeah, cool. What's he saying?
I used to be an arrogant atheist materialist back when I was 15, debunking creationism and fundamentalism, but I'm currently investigating epistemological basis for theological belief.
Cool, that's awesome. Yeah. I mean, I don't know what advice I'd say. I'd say keep looking and keep questioning, because it sounds like you're doing the right thing, man. See what I mean? I would say that empathy is a massive thing. Yeah. Imagine, like, put yourself in that person's shoes of what they think. Why do they think it? Imagine believing what they believe, and do it with everything: Christianity, Buddhism, whatever. But with Islam, imagine this is reality, and what does that mean for you? What does that mean for the world? Does it make sense what they're saying now? I'd say have a lot of empathy, and really think about, right, what do these people believe, and if I was in their shoes, this is what the universe would look like when I put these goggles on. And just critique yourself constantly. Sorry, one moment. Sorry about this. One moment.
Yeah. So with anybody watching, if you could go onto Facebook and tag Asadullah Ali, so maybe you can jump on live as well.
Sorry about that.
Okay, so I was about to, what the point I was about to make? I've completely forgotten now.
Sorry, man, your mic's muffled a lot. Don't know if it's me or you.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Cool.
You can hear me now? Okay, that's fine. So yeah, there's a formula which I give people, and the formula is this. First off, the proof of Islam, for you to recognize Islam as the truth, is not the same as you seeing the sun exist, right? It's not like that. Allah has created this world with the ability of a human being to be a disbeliever or be a believer. And if they truly want belief, then they will see the truth as clear as the sun. And if they truly do not want belief, then they will not see the sun even if it's there. So the three-step criteria that I ask atheists to develop, and I ask anybody looking for guidance, is this. Firstly, you have to be sincere. You have to be sincere. Like you said, you're not reading the Quran to refute, you're doing it sincerely. The second thing is that you have to be humble, right? You have to come not with arrogance, but with humility, right? Because arrogance and following your desires is one of the reasons why people don't accept guidance, yeah? So fighting off your desires, because a lot of people are, I don't be Muslim because of X, Y, Z, and also arrogant. So that's the second point. And the third point is there has to be a drive, a thirst for guidance. It can't just be like, oh, let's see. No, you have to really want it, right? And that doesn't mean you just fall for anything. It simply means you're thinking about death, you're thinking about the shortness of life, and you want guidance. Now, if the person has these three things, that they are sincere, they're humble, and they want guidance, I truly believe it's impossible. It's impossible that person will not be guided.
Yeah, I'd agree with that, definitely. 100%. And I think also some people might think that they're being humble and think that they're being sincere, but not that when they really look into it, they're not. Like, and when I picked up the Quran the first time, when I wasn't sincere, I really believed I was. I thought I'm being fair. I'm going to look at it black and white, and I wasn't. I was subconsciously looking to further my own belief rather than look at it as a blank slate. So I think it's all about self-reflection. I think when you do, like, it's quite funny because of the stream you did with Muslim Masters. When you actually when you care about your own self-development, that stuff your ego does break down. It's if your ego's in a place where you're ready to accept that guidance, and I don't mean in a way of like, oh, I'm so depressed, I need someone to, what I mean? I'm not being like, when you're at such a low state, you just want to find out why you exist, and you sincerely want to go, right, I just want to feel like I am a part of this universe, because a lot of human beings don't. They feel like there's always something missing, and they're always trying to fill it with materialistic things or other ideologies. People become communist or socialist because it fills that gap. It's all sorts, man. And it's about sincerely looking for that real reason you're there. And I think that then you'll get, because that person might not even consider that might be God, the creator, but they're like, right, I want to find out, I really want to, right, let's look at this, let's look at that,
And additionally to that, I often think about the story of Abu Jahl, who was a direct relative of the Prophet, peace be upon him, and Bilal radiallahu anhu, who had no relation with him at all. So one is a Arab who grew up, who the Prophet, peace be upon him, grew up in front of him, who the Prophet knew. And then you have somebody else who is practically a stranger, right? Yet one accepts guidance, one does not accept guidance. It's not that Abu Jahl is somehow a failure at philosophizing and Bilal is a great philosopher. Therefore, he has access to this rational algorithm which the other person doesn't. It's simply that one person has the right psychological state, the right humility, the right thirst for guidance, and the other person doesn't. And that's what leads to guidance and disbelief. And I'm planning on actually making a video on this, which I'm going to release tomorrow, inshallah, which is that Allah says in the Quran, the truth is from your Lord. Whoever wants to believe, let them believe. Whoever wants to disbelieve, let them disbelieve. And also that proof has come from your Lord. Whoever sees it sees it for their own benefit, and whoever doesn't is blind to it is basically, yeah. So I'm paraphrasing the verses here, but what I'm trying to get to is that you will not see the proof. You will not see the proof unless you want guidance. If you want guidance, Allah will give you proof, right? That will be true, like clear to you. And I find that in the dawah, and one of the mistakes that I made a lot, which I'm trying to clarify now, I've made loads of other mistakes, but this particular mistake where I was treating human beings like robots, like let me give them an argument, yeah? If they're in a wrong psychological state, yeah, like the argument's not going to have any impact on them.
That's exactly what happened to my ex-partner when I became Muslim. I was coming up with I was giving her all these awesome reasons why I've become a Muslim. And then at one point she said, do you know what, even if it was all proved to me, and she said it like I would know what she means, like, you know what I mean? Like she went, even if it was like, yeah, look at this and this, it's definite, I still probably wouldn't, accept it, because you know what I mean? Like, because and that was the point of like, are you kidding? Like that, wow. Because at the time I became Muslim, I really didn't want to become a Muslim. Really didn't want to. Why would you want to, like, you know what I mean? When you could do whatever you want. I come from like a punk background. I was going to gigs and all the bad stuff. Why would I want to give that up at 22, 23, at the peak of it all? So I didn't want to do it. And I was at that stage where, like, when someone that close to you, so she was my girlfriend at the time, but then I had in a car to make it halal. But she was seeing it all change and stuff, and but like, I suppose everyone that knows me knows that I'm always trying to become a better person, even though I am really naturally really lazy. I have to battle that all the time, but everyone around me wasn't surprised. Like some people that, those friends that are acquaintances, those sort of people rejected me as a friend. But all the close friends, that they knew that I was always searching for meaning, and not in a desperate way. I'll grab anything that feels good. The real trying to find out why we exist. I was very vocal when I first became Muslim as well. But yeah, I'm rambling on. Sorry, mate. I want to keep on.
No. You're not rambling on. I'm just thinking about a point that you made, that you go from a lifestyle of punk rock, of enjoying your life. For the people in Oxford, they will know the Bullingdon, right? That's sort of the fun stuff. You'd go from that to something which just seems so dry on the outside, just prayer mat, reading a book.
Really conservative as well, when I was so liberal,
Yeah, I mean, I just want to know, and I always find this intriguing because I've never been through this, and a lot of reverts, they do this, but I want to know, what is the driving force to make you say, okay, do you know what? I'm going to jump now. I'm going to jump. So I know I've got this lifestyle in which everything's accessible and everything looks green. And I've got this thing, which I know even when I go into the community, and I know the community in Oxford, and I know of reverts, friends, in fact, who took Shahada. And one of the common complaints that you have is there's no new Muslim support. So you're going from something which is quite comfortable to something that's uncomfortable and difficult.
Yeah.
So what makes you say, okay, do you know what? I'll do it. I'll do it.
It was the point where if I didn't do it, I'd be a massive hypocrite. I wasn't. It's a weird mentality I had, because I wasn't scared of that, like hellfire or anything. It was all about what the effects Islam has on the dunya, and my own principles, and I was going against my own principles if I were to ignore it. So I just had to do it, and I was so nervous as well. And I was like, oh, I don't want to do it. I went up to this guy that does dawah in the city centre, and what I kind of wanted him to convince me as well. I was like, yeah, I'm a bit interested, and I was just wanting I wanted an excuse to make it easy to become a Muslim, because I was making it too hard for myself as well. So yeah, it was a big thing about my own principles. I didn't want to I would become a hypocrite as well. And I hadn't, like, I read about the hypocrites in Islam and in the Quran, but that didn't correct me. It was my own, like, I'd feel so guilty within myself as well as that. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's what made me just jump for it.
You know what's powerful about, how Allah makes, like, I've never met Ben, right? But the brother who gave Ben is, dawah from Oxford Town Centre is the same brother that I used to pray with. He's an old uncle now. He's got a white beard in my local mosque. And you know how these things are connected. And then you just think to yourself, subhanAllah, like, I never knew you, you never knew me, but we knew the same person.
Yeah.
That person, may Allah bless him, he's probably in his late 60s now. He's just been a conduit for so much good. So much good.
Yeah, mashallah. I mean, really, really nice guy. And I really didn't appreciate it at the time as well. Because when you're 23, like, I know you're an adult at 23, but you, in this society, you're such a young, like, you've got a young mind, haven't you? And you take things for granted. And now I look back and I'm really grateful for what he did for me. I was very critical at first, but yeah, alhamdulillah.
Yeah. And, the other thing is that when you look at how Allah allowed you to meet that man, you could have met a whole bunch of other Muslims in Oxford. And they probably would not even have been able to articulate Islam to you. You just happen to meet somebody that for his bread and butter is always doing interfaith. He's always talking to people. And that is a huge blessing from Allah. It's just Allah made that thing happen, because if you may have been intimidated by him or said, okay, I'm not going to talk to him or whatever. And, it's just the right place at the right time, and everything just really beautifully comes together.
Yeah,
okay, so HC is saying, Ben, what is your rational justification for Islam?
So that is a massive subject, isn't it? So I'll try and give a short answer because it would take ages. It goes down to, so imagine the foundation is arrogant atheism. The arrogance goes. So I've just got, why am I an atheist? So what made me stop believing that there couldn't be a creator was the arrogance. So then I had to think, well, how did the world begin? I believe that, and when I say believe, I don't mean, I believe. I have good reasons to believe that the world, the universe started. And if it started, it had to have a cause. We're going to go down that argument. Okay, so I believe that the universe had a beginning, and everything that begins to exist has a cause. And then looking at that cause, it has the same sort of attributes as what we know as a creator, a God. So I'm going to make it really fast. I'm actually going to do a video about this on my new channel. Well, it's an old channel, but I don't really have any videos on it. So inshallah, subscribe to that. So it goes to that, and then it's figuring out what it's about, thinking metaphysically. What is that? What's that creator? What does it what does it have to have? What does it can't it have? And it boiled it. I'm going to boil it down. It all went to that thing had to be one thing. It had to be all powerful. It had to know. It had to know what it was doing. So that means it's intelligent, and so on and so on. So that made me believe in a creator. But was it just Islam? Yeah. So then it comes to the people who go, I'm a messenger from that creator. Then you got to look at that. I looked at lots of different philosophies, ideas, religions, and so on. And Islam, for me, and the reason I first accepted it, is the only religion that went, look at this. This is the book, and we can trace it back historically to when it was written or revealed. And that is amazing in itself. And not only that is the traditions, the sayings of the Prophet, peace upon him. We can trace back each individual person. You can't really have that with anyone else. So that was one of the reasons for accepting Islam. It's hard because now I've got a really good reason for why I believe the Prophet Muhammad, peace upon him, was getting revelation from that thing that created everything. But I don't think I was thinking of it like that at the time. But in the moment, now basically, I don't think that the Prophet, peace upon him, lied. I think he's telling the truth, and that's looking at the different variables, and looking at the sources of how we know what the Prophet did and said, and looking see if that's authentic. I mean, from what I'm not a historian, I'm not an academic at all, but I did look at a lot of sources to find out, and I believe we know more about what the Prophet, peace upon him, said than we do about like the Normans that came. What's his name? What's his name? It's gone. I'm a history buff, and I don't even. It's gone. William the Conqueror. There you go. Because we, you know what I mean. We know more about him than William the Conqueror, and that's mental, really, if you really think about it. So it's really hard to like disprove that as a historical source. Yeah, there's lots of reasons. I'm going to do a video, inshallah, but that's a really big. I could talk hours about that, and I don't want to spend too much time on just that.
And one of the things which I always tell the viewers is, before you even consider Islam as being true, you need to first seriously look at the question of God. Because without you accepting the existence of God, you won't be able to recognize, or it'll be difficult for you to recognize, not you won't be able to, more difficult for you to recognize that this Islam is true. Because a simple point which some reverts have said to me, and which makes sense, is when you ask them, why did they become Muslim? They don't give you linguistic miracle, preservation, or any of these things. They say, well, when I first came to understand that there's a creator, and that this creator is worthy of worship, and this creator is, nothing like the creation, which you can come to even without religion. And then when you go and look at religion, the first thing which stands out is Islam, because all the other religions, there's a continuous anthropomorphic element where God is like a human being, or you worship someone other than God. So the basic idea of God that we can come to using our minds, right? That God is one, worthy of worship, nothing like his creation. The obvious thing why you would think the Quran is true is because that's the very message of God, right? The same message that's actually, you can actually think about. And I often also tell people that don't get too hung up on miracles, because Dajjal, who we believe is the Antichrist, he will come and he will do these supposed miracles. We're not going to believe him, even though it's going to look like he's commanding the sky to rain, it's going to look like he's raising the dead. We're not going to believe him because his fundamental theology is wrong. He's telling people to worship him when we worship God. So theology is the primary proof. Everything else comes afterwards. And I think a lot of people don't recognize that. And I think I'm so glad that you mentioned belief in God before you did why Islam is true. Because I think you can't have it the other way.
Especially when you talk to someone that's an atheist, and I was an atheist, so you got to start there.
Yeah,
you got to start. Is there? And it wasn't that it was a God. It was like the thing that started everything, and its attributes. What would it have? What would it would definitely know what it was doing. It would be more powerful than the thing it created. All those things, and then you go, oh, that's the same as what people call Allah or God. Yeah.
So Hasnain Murtaza, he's asking, finding logic in everything, I'm guessing he means trying to rationalize everything, is that going to lead to atheism and liberalism?
No, because liberalism isn't logical. It's just an idea. Atheism, no, I don't believe so. I believe it's everyone's different. Everyone's got their own reasons they go down a certain path. I don't believe that logic will lead you to atheism, liberalism. No.
Yeah.
Because there's people that are a lot more intelligent than me, and the people that are around my circle, and they're Christian or they're Buddhist or whatever. It's not about that at all.
Yeah. And I just wanted to introduce a term which is solipsism, right?
Say that again.
Solipsism.
Solipsism.
Yeah. Solipsism is a philosophical position which is let's question everything. But the problem with solipsism is you don't go beyond your own existence. So you don't know anything other than your own existence, right? Which is an ancient position. So people who say let's question everything, they have no right to make a claim about anything in the world, whether it's God or religion or anything. Because if you truly want to question everything, if you want to be what you call a solipsist, you literally cannot have any justification for any knowledge. But the problem with this idea of questioning everything is it just sounds cool. Yeah, let's question everything. But reality,
it makes you an authority then on yourself. That's why.
Yeah, definitely.
But I think that attitude, when you have that attitude, but you take away the arrogance, it can lead to a good thing. because it whittles down to what the truth is. But unfortunately, a lot of people that have that attitude have also the arrogance, and then that leads you to atheism.
Yeah, I wanted your thoughts on something. So people normally say there is a link between intelligence and atheism, right? Do you think that's the case, or do you think there's something else going on?
No, it's not the case. I think the people that say that, there's different types of intelligence, there's different types of knowledge, and so on like that. The people that say that are talking about a certain type of intelligence and a certain type of knowledge field, and that is physical science. That's it. That's what the intelligent people come to the conclusion of that. And that it's a culture in the scientific world of atheism as well. And that's just simple as that, really. If there's a culture within, you go to university and you learn, you go as a believer in God, or not at all, maybe not thought about it, and everyone there's got a staunch belief in something of atheism. What's going to happen? It's like socializing. We're human beings. We mimic the tribe.
So
it's a cultural thing, I believe.
Yeah, that's a good way of thinking about it. But something I also like to just chip in there is that previously intelligence wasn't linked to wealth. So in the olden times, you had people who were scientists, and scientists weren't really that respected. They were just like, oh, it's a scientist. Yeah, I mean, it wasn't even a proper profession. People were doing it in their spare time and whatnot. So intelligence wasn't really linked to wealth. There were many people who were intelligent, they just didn't happen to be wealthy. However, today in industrialized nations, which have become rich over the past couple of centuries, you have a huge amount of people who are very well educated, and they're also wealthy, and the wealth brings with it arrogance. So I think that's the missing link. It's not that your intelligence leads you to atheism, because there's many intelligent people throughout history weren't atheists, right? Like Newton, right, and others. The thing is, the missing link is wealth, because when you get wealth, you get arrogant. Yeah, you start thinking you're self-sufficient. You start thinking you're better than others, and I think that's the cause here. It's not just the case of being more intelligent means you're going to be an atheist.
I've never thought of it that way. Actually, that's quite good. That's something to think about. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm really, and I don't think we give enough credit to these guys. I'm really starstruck by the likes of C.S. Lewis, Chesterton, these early, I mean, not that early, even if you go earlier with Newton and others, these Christian philosophers, right? And back then, even the scientists were called philosophers. I mean, their thinking and their intelligence and their wisdom and this type of stuff, it was just mind-blowing, right? I mean, if you look at Newton, right? A lot of people don't know this, but Newton wrote as much about theology as he wrote about physics.
Oh, wow, I didn't know that.
He died a virgin. He did not marry, right? He did not commit zina, right? And here's the beautiful thing. He died a muwahhid, meaning a monotheist. He said it's not possible that Jesus is the Son of God. He said God is one. Yeah.
Wow, subhanAllah.
He's a very intelligent guy. A lot of people don't know this, yeah. And I think even if you look at a lot of the arguments of C.S. Lewis, and you should definitely try and see, the parts of Oxford that C.S. Lewis lived in, or his society that still is at Oxford University, because many of his arguments, they're just as sophisticated as the arguments of many of the Islamic scholars when it comes to the existence of God. I mean, these guys were really intelligent, and they were not atheists, but they were intelligent. The only difference is they weren't rich. So that's the way I reconciled it. I thought to myself, it's the wealth. The wealth actually corrupts people. And it also reminds me of, like, Oxford is relatively wealthy. When I went to London, I realized a lot more people believe in God in London. Okay. And especially inner city London, where I'm from, where you get gangs, you get poverty, you get a lot of these things. People are a lot, I wouldn't say a lot, but definitely more religious, visibly more religious. And I think the reason is difficulty, poverty, and these types of things. I think this has an impact on your belief.
I think a big a big challenge for someone is wealth, big time. I mean, I was having a chat with someone the other day about wealth, and that, you know, that question, if you had £10 million, what would you do? And I said, I probably wouldn't want it, to be honest. It'd be hard. I know myself. I'm a big procrastinator. If I got no responsibilities, I'd be lazy and entertain myself, and then I feel guilty afterwards. It'll distract me big time to the focus. So you need a bit, not poverty, but I think a lot of wealth is a massive test from Allah, big time test. It gives you everything. What do you want? Like, there's no thing to make you go, do you know what? I need to think about this. And I suppose there is, because there's that emptiness you get, and you get those rich celebrities that you know, they get really depressed and they look for bigger things. But I mean, the majority of the time, you're entertained, you're distracted. And what's the plan for shaitans? To distract you, to make you forget Allah. And that's a challenge for Muslims. Is the bit that, for me, like, the big core of Islam is, you've got to remember there's a God, a God consciousness. Because shaitan's always trying to make you forget. Like, you know, this morning I played a computer game with my mate for a couple of hours, and did I think about God? Not a lot, to be honest. Said Alhamdulillah a few times, and that's about it. But you know, those things really distract you. And if you've got everything, or you've got a lot, then you've not got much time to think about God, because you're distracted.
You know, there is that obviously shaitan is getting us distracted and doing these things and keeping us you know, busy and not remembering him. But I do feel there's an element of it in which it's our own fault. So I'll give you an example. When I sit, this isn't because I'm a pious person. I've just learned to you know, re-engineer my brain towards it. When we think about worship, we think about zikr, we think about salah, fasting, charity, reading Quran, something. But that's not really the understanding of worship that the early Muslims had. The early Muslims considered your entire life as worship, everything you do as worship. Yeah. So, for example, when I started to understand this, and I started to look at some of the narrations of the Prophet ﷺ, where he said, reflect upon creation, do not reflect upon Allah. Meaning, reflecting upon creation is an act of worship, right? Even the Prophet ﷺ saying, thinking good of Allah is worship, right? Thinking good of Allah is excellent worship. So now when I go to watch a documentary, because I love documentaries, right? When I watch a nature documentary, I just tell myself, I am trying to do this action, not only because I love documentaries, but because I'm trying to see Allah's creation. Not only do I enjoy it more, I actually, like, it's an act of worship. And Adnan Rashid, who you probably know from Speaker's Corner, right? He said this to me years ago. He said to me that Allah commands you to study history in the Quran. I was like, what? Really? And he says, yeah, Allah says, look at the previous people before you, right? So when you start stretching out what it means to be a worship of Allah, you start to realize a lot of your actions, they can actually be worship. Like, for example, sometimes just to call up a friend, right, who is feeling a bit down, with the right intention, that's worship, right? Even going for a walk, keeping fit, doing all these types of things. And I think that's one of the reasons why, I mean, I love video games and I still have a lot of addiction to them, right? Public sin. But at the same time, I do have this other way of, I've started to reverse engineer and give myself some justification, yeah? Which is that I find if I play games for a little bit, and then I stop, I'm like really sharp, because your brain activity just goes, yeah? And then if you're just being lethargic all day, sometimes to wake yourself up, if I go on to my Mac and I put in Doom 95, the old yeah, and with the old monsters and stuff like this, literally you just play it, you wake up and you're like, okay, yeah, that was good, and pass. So yes, you're right. Shaitan distracts us a lot, but I do find that we ourselves, we limit the mercy of Allah. We limit what we consider to be worship, and I think,
Yeah.
yeah.
Do you know what you just mentioned is one of the big reasons I accepted Islam as well, is that everything you do, it can be worship. It debunked the idea of this big sky daddy making you want, like, ego trip, yeah, worship me, because it's not about that. It's about like living your life the way you're meant to live your life is worship. SubhanAllah, you know, it's amazing. I love that concept. I love it. Yeah, this, but you need to have the right intention and attitude as well. So that's something that you have to develop within yourself, and you've got to think, you know, you might watch that documentary for a different reason, and then is it worship? You know, you have to have the right intention. But alhamdulillah, it's awesome. That idea of everything you do is worship. I love it.
One of the scholars, somebody asked him, he's a major scholar, and he's not going to give you liberal opinions and stuff, right? So one of the brothers asked him, can you get tired of reading the Quran? Like, is it something that is it bad to be? And he was like, of course you can get tired of reading the Quran. You're a human being, yeah. Allah didn't create you to be like like doing the same activity all the time, yeah. So it's perfectly normal. And there's another verse of the Quran which Allah says that, and it actually goes back to one of the Imams. It goes back to Imam Malik, right? So he's one of the 4 Imams. Somebody said to him that, you know, Imam, you're always giving lectures and talks and halaqas, but I think you should actually spend more time in prayer than give these lectures. So, you know, the Imam, he wrote him back a letter, and he said to him that, you know, thank you for your advice, or, you know, whatever he said. And he said, look, Allah created people to make it beloved in their heart certain acts of worship, right? So the act of worship which I love is the halaqas, and somebody else may love something else. So you shouldn't just go against what you love. And then Imam Malik did a beautiful thing. Imam Malik actually quoted a verse of the Quran. Yeah. I just wanted to bring it up because this verse he used as a way of basically giving evidence. Yeah. So this is chapter 17, verse 84. Say, each one works according to his manner, but to your Lord is most knowing of best who is guided, right? So people work in their way. Like, some people love dawah. Yeah, they can sit down and watch dawah videos and refute and this and this. Other people are like, why am I gonna listen to all day long answering misconceptions, which I've been doing? Yeah, I want to learn Arabic. Other people do something else. I think one of the mistakes we do is we're trying to get everybody to fit in the same way. Some people are not made for that. It's just not made for that, you know.
That's awesome. That's really that when you become a Muslim, the lifestyle switch is so great that like a lot of reverts get that mentality of that Islam's got to be the hard option because you're so used to it being struggle. Like, all right, you got to get up when the sun gets up. What? You know, you're not allowed to eat this, you're not allowed to do that, you know, and it's that's a very black and white religion. So that is a really refreshing thing for like a revert to hear. I think that should be spread a bit more, because that's awesome, and you're 100% correct as well.
Yeah. And no, I mean, I changed my perspective on this, especially when I heard a lecture from a scholar. I think he's a Palestinian or one of these scholars, and he's giving the evidences from the early Muslims and the Quran and the Sunnah. It wasn't just, you know, something made up. Like, he even gave a really powerful thing, which is one of the sayings of one of the early generations of the Muslims, who said an hour in the remembrance of God through His creation, by reflecting upon creation, is worth, I don't know how much prayers, or, you know, something like this. We actually have this. But I wanted to add something else, right? Because there's a lot of people here who are sometimes newly practicing or reverts or whatnot. So I've been, alhamdulillah, dealing with reverts for about 10 years. Like, not like new Muslim care, but, you know, meeting them, and I've seen certain patterns, right? So Shaitan, what he does is, he's way more smarter than us, yeah? So he's not going to go up to you and say, Ben, you know, you know, the Bullingdon, you know the good old days, just go down there and, because you're going to be like, A'udhu billah, I'm not doing that. What he's going to say to you is, Ben, come on, man. You're like, you're a Muslim. You need to wake up and not sleep after Fajr. Don't do any of these things. Just read the Quran. He'll make you stricter and stricter and stricter. And then to get to a point where I've had really uncomfortable conversations with reverts because they thought they were like super Muslims. And I'm trying to get them to calm down. Like, calm down, bro. This is ridiculous. To the point, there was one brother, who he was just literally with everything. He was like, yeah, what's the evidence for this? Yeah, what's this? Yeah, what's that? We can't do this. And anything, bro, even I've met people who are like, literally anything that is of any enjoyment, which may be fine, they'll be like, no, not that. No, not that. You can't do that. Like, and they themselves, you can see they're dying inside. So there's one particular brother, he always used to just come up with the strictest opinions, always be like the mood damper, like we're laughing, we're trying to, no, brothers, what is this? Yeah. All the time, he was like listening to the Quran. Yeah. Like, and he was and we just thought he's a super Muslim, but I actually thought to myself, that, this guy's way better than me. Like, yes, he's a bit strict, but, he's way better than me. Then this brother, I found out, he actually apostated from Islam. And he was a revert. He apostated from Islam. He actually, really common. And I was like trying to think to myself, what the hell happened? Yeah. Now the brother, it was nothing to do with intellectualisms, nothing to do with intellectual arguments. It was simply because he got burnt out, and he killed himself basically. Alhamdulillah, he's back. But that's the problem. People think you got to be like, can't do anything, don't do this, don't do that. And then when you, basically that's shaitan, rather than telling you, Ben, come down to the Bullingdon, right? He'll basically say to you, you have to basically pray every single salah in the mosque, even though, like you work in the town center, right? They'll say, no, you can't pray there, you have to go there. I'll give you an example where I used to, many years ago, I used to work. There's a white revert brother, and he was like from a lower middle class type, like council estate type of guy, right? And they normally go from like extreme jahiliyyah to extreme like Islam, like everything must be like, you have to do this thing according to this or not. So he used to work in the town center, and he kept having arguments with his boss because the boss wouldn't let him go to the mosque and basically pray. And I was a bit like, they're giving you prayer breaks so you can pray at your place, but you're adamant that the 5 prayers, you need to go all the way across the city and go to the mosque and come back. And then I was trying to explain to him, you're being unreasonable, not your workplace.
Yeah, that's mental. That is absolutely crazy. I've got a lot of empathy for it though. I understand why people do that, and it's to do with a psychological shift of, especially if you're a Western like white Muslim, white revert, because your culture is liberalism, so do whatever you want and make sure it doesn't hurt anyone else, and materialism. So then you come to an ideology of these rules and regulations that to a long-term practicing Muslim, it's not that big of a deal to pray 5 times a day. It's easy. But someone that's gone from one thing to the other, they see the religion as a set of black and white rules. And yeah, alhamdulillah, you do these things, you'll get close to Allah, but that's what it becomes about. It becomes about fiqh, basically, doesn't it? Yeah. You know what I mean? They get well obsessed with Islamic rulings, yeah, it's just that. Do you know what? It's actually, subhanallah, like EF Dawah just finished a live stream about overzealotness, so check that out, guys, if you want. And it is exactly that. I think it's exactly that. And then they burn themselves out. Exactly. Sometimes it's because they want to, like, so what I experienced when I became Muslim was I had these types of group of friends, sense of humor, mannerisms, reference points, and now I become a Muslim. I still had some of those friends, but I was making new friends, and they weren't they didn't have the same personality. It was real social struggle. So someone that wants to fit into these people, they might have to go, right, I've got to do that then. All right, thobe, hat, and it goes too far. And because maybe their intentions have become something different to worship Allah for the sake, like doing things for the sake of Allah. Maybe that, you know, there's little reasons like that can happen. That's from me talking to other reverts. That's from me catching myself out doing things like that. I wouldn't do the thobe and the hat thing, but it's fine. But yeah, there's with reverts and newly practicing Muslims. Maybe you've born Pakistani family and you've never practiced, and now you're 30 and you decided to practice because you found out that, oh, this Islam thing that I was born with, it's the truth. Wow, you know, it's the same journey, and it's very common. It's I hear it a lot. It's always about stepping back and reflecting on yourself, on your day, and thinking about what was my intention of doing that. Really, if you get there, you'll be cool, I believe, and that's what I'll tell someone if they're doing that. But mostly, you can't tell them anything if they're like that. They're a bit haram.
And you know, when I like to think about this, when your Islam becomes robotic, when it becomes mechanical, yeah, what you're basically doing is you're following the law without the spirit. Because if I give you a bunch of guidelines, right, if you're a lawyer and I give you the British law, right, the British law is written down, but then there's an objective they're trying to achieve. So they're trying to achieve security, health, or whatever. And then there's like the law, right, what they've written down. If you follow the law without the spirit, what they're trying to achieve, keeping that in mind, you can do a lot of damage, right? You can do a lot of bad stuff even, right? You can twist the law, you can do certain things, right? When you follow the actual spirit and you ignore the law, you're just like, oh yeah, just do what you want. Then again, so both these things come together. You have to be like, you always have to keep in mind, okay, why? And I always go back to this thing because people are too judgmental against reverts. So there's a sister who accepted Islam not too long ago. And the problem was that she became obviously Muslim from an atheist background, but she still had now and again fell into the drinking habit. Yeah. The Muslims around her, they treated her like trash. They treated her like she was apostated and XYZ. Now, the thing which I'm thinking to myself, she gave up everything for Allah. She has a bad habit, right? Overlook it, yeah? If she's not wearing the hijab right now, it'll grow on her. You know, these things come over time. And look what our mother Aisha radiallahu anha, what she said. She said, if the first thing the Prophet did is tell people, this is halal, this is haram, don't commit zina, don't do gambling, she said even the Sahaba would not have followed him. The first thing he did is not give them rules. The first thing he did is he connected their hearts to Allah. When he connected their hearts to Allah, the rules were nothing. They're just like
easy.
You ban alcohol. What's the difference between the banning of alcohol in Chicago, where it failed, and the banning of alcohol in Medina? The difference is willpower, because people are like, okay, we don't need it. And that's the advice I would give. And I know there's some reverts watching as well. Is that the overzealousness is a trick by shaitan to destroy you. I'd rather there be somebody who's taking everything too slow than someone that goes too fast. Too slow, you're not going to hurt yourself.
Yeah. I mean, it's also a trick to hurt other people. The shaitan might trick you to be overzealot, or you do it within yourself. And you might be fine, you're practicing, you're on the deen, but everyone around you is going, I'm not, that Islam thing looks rubbish, mate. Especially if you're a revert and you're hanging out with your mum and dad, or your brother, sister, your old mates, or, you know, 2 months ago, mate, you were wearing a flat cap and a hoodie. Now you're in why are you dressed like the guys down Cowley Road? But yeah, so it could be shaitan using those people to just put people off of Islam, because when you look at Islam black and white, like you said, the Prophet Muhammad, peace upon him, gave the revelation. That first revelation was how to connect, what Allah was and how to connect to Allah. And I don't really talk much about my subjective experiences within Islam, but the time that I felt very stable within my religion and very solid and grounded was when I got that connection. All that other times where I was, because when you're I don't know if it's an atheist thing, maybe other reverts from other faiths have this, but for me the religion was a bit black and white at the beginning, because there was no connection to Allah. Even my first dua, I felt like I was talking to myself, you know. And it was, and as soon as I stopped focusing on what I can and can't do, and what I should and shouldn't do, whatever, I made efforts to connect to Allah, and that made that intention to connect to Allah. Allah made it easy for me. As simple as that. And it's such a shame, that story about that brother. Did you say he came back to Islam, the one that apostated?
He did come back, but I think he just got burnt. So even now,
I did. I got burnt out. I stopped practicing.
Yeah. Oh, there you go.
Loads of different reasons. Not because I went like super Muslim. I was actually quite like relaxed, but it was how hard it was, and how different culturally it was, and lots of emotional reasons as well. So yeah, my story is that I accepted Islam, basically got all the dawah material from 10 years ago, all that stuff. I was reading all that, and then about a year and a half later, I like wobbled and went into Quran only Islam. There's in Oxford, there's like a little movement there. So I went like that for a couple of years, and then Allah obviously didn't give me any mercy, because I was like, you know, rejected half of the faith. And then I just whittled away, and one day I just, you know, like did haram things, and I still believed in Allah and believed that the Muhammad was the messenger, peace be on him. But I just put my head in the sand about it and just lived my old life and stopped talking to it. But Allah guided me back. There's lots of little events in my life that made me come back to the deen. Alhamdulillah. But it's common, man.
Yeah, and I look at it like Allah had his sight on you the whole time. Allah's mercy was wrapping you, because I have not seen people go from Quraniyun back to Orthodox Islam. Like when people go all Quran, so we're just going to follow the Quran. We're not going to follow, hadith or scholars. What happens is they get like a super. They become almost like Super Saiyan from one perspective. That they're not atheists, so they still have this thing. I'm going paradise. I have a life to look forward to. X, Y, Z. At the same time, all of the hedonism of atheism still open to them. So it's still like, well, Allah's Ghafur Rahim, and it doesn't really matter. You can pray in your heart, and so then that position that you're in, it's the mercy of Allah that throughout your period that Allah is keeping an eye on you, because it's very, very difficult. I've spoken to people who are Quran only Muslims, and they're so hard to speak to, because they're just like, they're enjoying their life. They're like, we're Muslim, we're just like you.
What you find is that it has the most variety of ideas, backgrounds, and not backgrounds actually, but because there's no actual information about the religion, they just like make it up. Some people twist it. Some people are really hardcore Quran, every letter, so they're really trying to twist it to it's all sorts. And then you've got the like kind of cultural Muslims that kind of want to be spiritual, but they don't really know about Islam. I just want to say something quickly. That Greek guy, that HC, said he said, Ben, to have intention to seek God is intellectually dishonest. So I didn't have intention to seek God. I had the intention to seek what the truth of this reality was. And from my questioning and reflecting, that made me, that research made me come to the conclusion that there is something that caused the universe. And then from then, and even, I said I didn't want to be a Muslim. I didn't want to believe in God either. Because lots of different reasons, but no, you're right. If you go, I want to believe in God, so I'm going to try and believe in God intellectually, I understand what you mean, but it wasn't that. I was looking for what the truth of this reality is, and that's what led it. Inshallah, I'd love to talk about it, but it's so, I talk for hours about it. It goes in really deep, really philosophical, and we've already done like how you know what I mean.
We need that. We need that. And I've been telling a lot of reverts that I meet that you need to get your story documented. You need to get it out there.
So I made my story, but I actually took it down my channel because it was about thinking about what was my intention of doing those videos. And I actually did it because I wanted to tell, because I was doing live streams on YouTube and stuff. I wanted people to know what my background was. So I did this revert story with them as the audience in mind, rather than anyone else, or doing it for the sake of Allah. Like this is my genuine like story. So I'm going to redo it, inshallah, for the right intentions. And this is what we're talking about. Like anything you do in life can be worship with the right intention. And I really thought about what was my intention there, and I was a bit worried that it was the wrong intention, so I took it down. But yeah, inshallah, I'll do some more in the future. I've got the equipment now. So
something that's going to help you is if we, while obviously you're under the lockdown as well, we do like these live streams and we cover different aspects, right? Number one, you don't need to worry about your intention, because even if your intention is not good, it's still going online. I mean, because Shaitan, he tricks us like that.
Yeah, know? True.
Either Shaitan makes us not think of it at all, or Shaitan just makes us basically go all out, and we're like, oh, okay, I can't put it out because of my intention. Now, I just want to say salam. This is an old school friend, Summi Butt, who actually lives in Oxford.
Oh, subhanallah. Salam alaikum, bro.
Yeah, so maybe you can meet Ben. Ben lives, Cowley. This guy also lives Cowley, so Marston Road.
Marston Road, wow.
Yeah, Marston Road,
yeah. I go to the masjid there sometimes. The Islamic, the Oxford University one. It's beautiful. So maybe, inshallah, if you catch me, grab me, inshallah.
Yeah. I also found out through Ben that we went to the same mosque, Stanley Mosque.
Yeah, I live down the road there, so I go Stanley Road Masjid.
This is interesting because when I used to live in Oxford, on the Ifley Road, right? There's a lot of, obviously, pubs and those sorts of places. There used to be this drunk white guy in his 70s, like totally used to be drunk. But when he used to be drunk, he used to be like, don't judge me. I believe in Allah Ta'ala. I am a Muslim. Yes. And he was always just like drunk out of his head, but he definitely was a Muslim because he knew so many of these little things. So what I found out about him is that he basically became Muslim, but he never progressed in his Islam. So he became Muslim, I don't know how many years ago in Oxford.
Allah.
And this story I'm talking about 20 years ago. So I think he may have passed away now, may Allah have mercy on him. So the guy, I remember very clearly, this guy who was just drunk, and he was a homeless drunk guy, and he was just always going on about, Allah this and that, and I'm a believer too, and blah blah, don't this type of thing. And it sort of scared me.
It sounds like he became a Muslim and he had problems socially within the community, and then he couldn't progress because of that. And anyone that's a born Muslim living in the West, think about that, bro. Think about that, because I had a similar experience, man. So a lot of people do. They're scared to go to the masjid because it's so different, and they're worried about what these people that the born Muslims are going to think about them. And I'll tell you a story once. I think it was my third Jummah. And in the Stanley Road Masjid, there's the main room, and then there's an upstairs, and then there's a little side room. Yeah, I went to the side room, but I went right at the back of the side room. Okay, and the door's at the front. Yeah, so all I knew about Jummah was 2 rakat. That's it. And other people do other things afterwards. Sunnah, I didn't know about that then. So I did my 2 rakat, and I felt so, because doing the salah was fine. I'm in my zone, worshipping Allah, but as soon as that's over, I'm like, I don't know anyone. I don't know what the etiquettes are. I don't even know what that thing is over there, and I just wanted to get out. And everyone's doing the sunnah. I didn't know that go walking in front of people. I stepped over people, like dum, stepping over people, like tripping up on them. And then one brother went like that and stopped me like that. And I was like, oh God, it was the most cringe thing ever. experiences like that for new Muslims make them not want to go to the masjid again. So a big bit of advice I'll give to like born Muslims is just make it easy for them. Make it easy. Make it so even if you're worried to go, it's a revert over there. But if I go up there and go salam, and he might be a Muslim for 10 years, and that would make me. Don't worry, that's shaitan. Go up to him, introduce, because he might be brand new, might be new to the area, and he might be scared as hell to go into that masjid. And you going up to him, making him feel comfortable, might be a massive, big, like gateway. And imagine the amount of reward you get for doing that. Like we said, everything's worship is with the right intention. And also, if you see them do something wrong, don't make them feel silly, because they won't come back for a while. I didn't go to the masjid for a month after that, and I came back because it was so cringe. So
it's a simple thing. You see a revert in the mosque, chances are he doesn't know anybody. Talk to the person. I went to the mosque in High Wycombe about 2011. And I was working down there, and when I went to the mosque to pray, I saw there was a white guy sitting on a chair in the back, and no one's talking to him, like literally no one, right? And I just had this urge to just say, "Oh, you're right, mate, like what's going on?" I don't remember exactly what I said, but I said, I said, I checked out what's his name. He had a typical English name, and I was like, okay, like, so you're coming to the mosque, like, are you interested? He's like, yeah. So anyway, I prayed, and I said, okay, let's just meet up. Just started meeting up with him, and I found out he was a non-Muslim.
Wow.
He just come and sit in the mosque, right? And I'm shocked at this. All of them are walking past this guy.
Yeah.
They're just like, I mean, he did have, to be fair, there was one Pakistani guy who was like bringing him to the mosque and stuff. But I was just surprised that everybody wasn't going up to him and saying, hello, my friend.
Why do you think that is?
Okay, so I've spoken about this before. I think Pakistanis are very racist. I'm Pakistani, so I can actually say that. I think I've seen a non-Muslim being kicked out of a mosque myself.
Whoa.
Yes, I've seen that. And Pakistani is very nationalistic as well. And I'm not nationalistic.
Pakistani mosque, yeah.
Huh?
So this is the Pakistani mosque,
yeah. The Mirpuri mosque, and this is, this type of mosque. So I don't believe in that nationalistic nonsense. Yeah, I don't celebrate 14th August, Independence Day. Islam first and last. Yeah, I could be Mexican. Yeah, Mexican, Pakistani.
Doesn't make a difference. When you're dead, doesn't make a difference, does it?
And I think a part of it is probably because I went to a pretty much all-white school. You must have heard of Cherwell. Yeah, so that was my school, right? So I didn't have this thing of, okay, I'll just be friends with Pakistani people. Like there, you're like, you don't have Pakistani. Well, maybe now it's changed. I'm talking about 20 years ago. So I've seen this racism, and this racism, you get it. You also get it amongst the Arabs as well. They'll have their own Arab mosques, Yemenis mosques. And, the thing is, their Islam is so traditional, so cultural. They don't even know what dawah is. They don't even have this concept. Like, when I go to the UK, alhamdulillah, there are some very good mosques. Like that mosque where I met that brother in High Wycombe, it's called Wise Mosque. That's one of the best mosques in the UK. Yeah, they're doing all these activities for non-Muslims. They're bringing in non-Muslims. I've seen groups of non-Muslims in that mosque that they do open talks for,
awesome.
School talks. They help and do community work. They give dawah in the town center, and even the mosque is designed. And this is what I agree with. I mean, the mosque is not designed to be something that looks like it is plucked out of, Lahore and stuck in High Wycombe. The mosque is actually designed as an English mosque. So the brickwork is English. It actually looks like you can tell it's a different place. You can tell it's not a normal place. You can tell it's a house of worship. But and then you just go down the road to the other mosque, and there's just like the big old dome and the star and the crescent. So the brothers who set up the mosque, and I know of these guys, they're not like first generation Pakistanis, right? They're not from the 50s and 60s. They're like second generation. They fully understand like how to incorporate being a minority, and also not coming across threatening and stuff. And alhamdulillah, I would say this: I've met reverts in that mosque, And I would say if every mosque in the UK was 10% of what they do or 50% what they do, I think we'd have a lot more shahadas. Like honestly, small.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and bro, this is the thing that Muslims need to be very open about, which is when we have mistakes, you just have to say, do you know what? Like, what's it called? We have to be open about it. I'm not going to name one of the mosques in Oxford, but one of the mosques, I met one of the revert brothers who, after he took Shahada, he went to the mosque and to try and find out how to pray. And I believe him when he told me this. He basically said that they weren't interested. They were just like telling him come later and this type of stuff.
Yeah.
So there isn't that urge. There isn't the urge like let's go out, let's grab people, let's give dawah. I mean, you've been in Oxford all that time. How many people have you seen give dawah? It's just the same uncle that we spoke about.
It is. Yeah, there's once in a while there's a group of people that do dawah, alhamdulillah, but yeah, there's not. It should be at the masjid as big time. When I started practicing again, I was again scared about that cultural thing because I didn't have a good experience when I first became Muslim with the cultural aspects and with that sort of thing going into the masjid and that. It's not as bad as some brothers, but it was enough to put me off and give me excuses not to go and all that sort of stuff. So when I accepted, like I went for a bit, it's a big story, but I started practicing Islam again and believing and outwardly going, right, I'm doing this, I'm praying. Then I had to have that journey of, why am I Quran only Muslim? Because I had to start questioning that. Because again, I question everything about myself and my beliefs. I try to, and I did with the help of some of the guys. Imran from EF Dawah was a big help. A lot of reading and a lot of understanding, and I eventually accepted the Sunnah. But that meant I couldn't go to the Quran only Jummah really. So I was dreading it. I was a Sunni Muslim going to the Quranist Jummah because I didn't want to go to the masjid because it was going to be cringe. So I eventually went and it was fine. People just get on with it. But what I've noticed is I've never really had a thobe or anything like that, and I don't really wear it out in the open and all that. But I bought a thobe because for Fajr it's amazing. You get out in your boxers, you put it on and do, and you don't have to worry about putting trousers on, socks, and all that sort of stuff. So I got one, but I thought, do you know what? I'm gonna go to the masjid with the thobe on, and I never got so many salams at the masjid. Uncles coming up to me, salam alaikum. Wow, never talked to me before. I've been coming here years. I didn't say that obviously, but when I left, I was like, whoa. And it is. I think it is that they're there and they're thinking that's that person's like. Subconsciously they're thinking he's not the same as me, and I don't know how to talk to that person because he's in a different background. But when I dressed it Islamically, they're comfortable. They're like salam alaikum. They can use the lingo. They think that maybe if when I'm on Western clothes, they don't think, so all that sort of thing. So that's a big eye opener. I think the community could do with being told that just talk to people the basics of dawah. The basics of dawah, and it's not tablighi Jamaat dawah. Just have a chat with someone that's that if someone comes into the masjid and you think they Muslim or they look a bit different or they're not in my Pakistani community or Bengali community or whatever, go and chat with them. Just say salam alaikum, because some people did to me in my journey, and they're the ones that like help me keep strong. When I was struggling, and they're the ones that helped me through my journey, and they're the ones that are going to get a lot of reward, inshallah. May Allah reward them. For the people that just went and said salam. So just say, even if it's salam alaikum, give a handshake or whatever. Not right now, Corona, but yeah. So if I could give anything out there, make it easy for the white guy coming into the masjid.
Definitely. I mean, what I want to do is I want to make it so that the mosques are a lot more accessible. And of course, this is obviously not just me, a lot of people are working on this, but the way I like to do things is through social media, right? Because a lot of people, they like hush about the fact that mosques are, majority of mosques are not revert friendly, right? Most people are hush, let's just talk about it behind the door. Yeah, now they've been doing this for years. I think you just have to take the bull by the horns, and you have to say it on social media, and you have to just be direct with people. Say, well, the mosque is for everyone, right? Why isn't the mosque, like, I'm open about this. When I, like, for example, I've been to some mosques and we obviously travel around and stuff. And it's literally, I see when I walk, Stanley Mosque doesn't do this, but you know, when you walk in, you've got the billboard on the right, yeah? And where you have posters for stuff. I've been to a mosque and it's literally got a poster that they're fundraising to basically have another minaret, yeah? Why not use the money on the homeless? Why not use the money on dawah activities? Why not use the money on women that are thrown out and from abusive husbands or whatever? Why not do something? Why another dome?
I think it's that mentality of it's a masjid, but it's also my community centre, and that's the problem, because your community isn't your national community; it's the Muslim community, and Muslims are meant to do charity. You know, it's not about your centre, where it's not about the committee members. And unfortunately, that's, you got to think, man. When the Pakistani people came to this country, alhamdulillah, they set up masjids, right? But because it was back then, and maybe they had a different idea of Islam and so on, like then. That's created a culture, and it's not just Pakistani. There's other masjids from other nations or whatever. But that's what's happening, and it's a cultural practice. And there might be Muslims that are cultural Muslims, so to speak. They're not really conscious about worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but they're more doing it because that's what you have to do on Friday, you know. And that's going to happen. But it's the people that are aware of the problem. It's their job to do something about it. And even if that is if you know there's a revert nearby, and you do make the effort to say salam and everything, find out, maybe swap numbers, take him to the masjid and just go, right, do you want me to show you what everything is in the masjid, so you're not a bit nervous or anything? I'll show you what that does, why you do that, why he's doing this, and why there's a little bit at the front there. What's that wooden thing next to where he's standing? What you have to do for Jummah? That would be awesome, because he'll go there and he'll go, right. And I'm going to be honest, mate. There's still things in the masjid I don't know what they're for. Like, I don't know if they're cultural. I don't know why do you have that? What can I do that? Like things like. Things when I first become Muslim, like, you know, like attar and a little perfume. I was like, what is that? Like, and for years I was like, what is it they're doing? Like, is this? And I just like looked on the internet, like, is there a sunnah of having a stick and rubbing it on the stick on you? I didn't know it was perfume, mate. So yeah, there's loads of little things like that where what you could do to help. And even if it is a non-practicing Muslim, doesn't really know much about Islam, he's got his got a Pakistani background, Arab background, or whatever, and he's starting to practice again. Make it easy for him. Take him to the masjid. Show him what's all about, and what, you know. It makes a massive difference, and it's not that hard as well. It could even be a conversation instead of going to the masjid. But it will do big wonders, man, because it's those little emotional barriers that Shaitan plays on with new Muslims. Those little, and maybe born Muslims don't know about them. Sorry, it's a fly. They don't know that this revert's going through this or thinking this emotionally. He might be intellectually convinced about Islam, but little things here and there. It would be nice to tell them about it. Just blank your mind about the cultural things about Islam or some Islamic things. This is an example. One iftar last year, we got together with some brothers, and one of those brothers invited a revert that was local. I went to London to see them, so he was a local new Muslim. And it was like, oh, cool, you're going to bring it. And I was there, was another revert there. It was cool. It was a nice mixed bag. We sat on the floor because there's not much furniture. We try and do the sunnah. There's a big plastic mat they put on the floor. We ate with our hands and stuff, and it was Pakistani food, so, you know, like, we did it that way. And then afterwards I went, did you explain to him why we did it on the floor and all that? And he was like, no. I was like, you might have thought that was weird, mate. You know, things like that. By the way, we're doing it on the floor. There's a couple of reasons we do that. One, it's our tradition. Like, we're doing Pakistani food, so it's traditional. So if you went to a French restaurant, you'd want French, you know. And on top of that, the Prophet, peace be upon him, used to eat with his right hand, and he used to, you know, and explain it that way. And you know, that does big wonders, because it could be those little things that niggle in the back of your head, like, oh, that's really weird. Did I do it right? Did I use the right hand, or what? You know, some people really struggle with stuff like that.
Yeah, and you know, like you said about, look, these small things make a difference. It's also about awareness. Yeah, it's also about awareness. So say yourself, me, a few of us go out and we know one of our mates is skin. Yeah. It's understood that we'll be like, we'll just create a very comfortable environment where someone pays for his food without something, oh, you haven't got money, or you see what I mean? You just do it in such a subtle way, no one sees anything. Yeah. And this is just emotional intelligence. Now, this issue kept coming up and no one was doing anything about it, which was that on Eid, reverts used to be on their own. Now, I was oblivious to this idea that what do reverts do on Eid? Because I was always thinking about, well, I have my family, I go to my family, I spend time with my family, X, Y, Z. So Hamza told me this story, Hamza Sotsi, is that his Eid as a new Muslim, he basically just went to the mosque to pray. He was either going to go home because his whole family is non-Muslim, they're not going to practice Eid, obviously. So he just used to go home. He just used to go to a coffee shop and sit there and read a book. He said that was my Eid. Yeah. And many years ago, this brother, he started this project, Roadside to Islam, right? Where he himself was a revert, and then he started basically getting all the reverts together on Eid so that they have a family. And then over time, this idea, other people started applying it and things started happening. So these small things, like, born Muslims are sort of blind to them. Like, okay, so you're friends with a revert person, but you never ask them, like, what are you doing on Eid? What's going on? Yeah. And I'll be very honest with you, bro. And this isn't just to show off. I'm only doing this because as a person who's there to promote good, I want to say, look, these aren't just words. The best Eid I've ever had is the Eid where I went to my wife and I said to her, this year, we're going to call over reverts to our house, people who don't have, family, right? So these people, they don't even necessarily know each other, but you just, and you know what? That is the best Eid in your life. Why? Because there's something Allah puts in your heart, like, you're doing something good. Yeah. Even if it's not like they have to be around the house all day, just a few hours. But honestly, they'll probably make dua for you. They'll do something and you'll be like, okay, do you know what? Like, and this is so important. When people ask me about apostasies, about new Muslims, why do new Muslims apostate? It's a simple reason. No social network, right? Loneliness. There's one sister who apostated, and when we chased her up about why she apostated, she just gave a very simple answer. She said, when I became Muslim, nobody befriended me. I lost all my family. Basically, she lost everything, yeah? And she said, yes, you may do the takbeers and the welcome sister when I first take shahada or whatever, but her basically reason for leaving Islam was loneliness.
Yeah.
And from what I know so far, she still hasn't come back to Islam. But that was her.
Maybe I'll guide her back to path, inshallah. I mean, I understand that, man. It's
here, Vincent Buckles, right? I've been Muslim 4 years and no one's invited me for Eid.
Yeah.
Like
I don't know what like. I'm in the same sort of boat. It's only recently, like Imran from EF Dawah invited me to his place. Me and my wife went over there. Yeah, it was nice, but like my wife's like from a cultural Muslim background, and she chose to practice like 5-ish years ago. So although she's like got a Pakistani background, she's in the same boat as me, really. So the Eid is more of just like their family get together and do something, and it's not even that big because the family aren't even that, it's so for me, again, if you get to a point, I don't know if you would emphasize with it, whatever, my tongue tied, but when you're not a Muslim and you're from a white background, Christmas is a massive thing when you're a kid.
Yeah.
But when you get older, it's whatever, Christmas, and that's what Eid feels like to me. It's like, although religiously it's a big thing, it's just another day, really, and we go to the masjid, do the salah, and then get home and whatever. Sometimes I'll try and book it off, but that's what it's like for me, really, at the moment. And but inshallah, what I intend to do is I can change that with my family, inshallah, in the future. So when I have children and stuff, we can make it more of a big thing, and make it inclusive as well. But yeah, it would be cool if people invite me, and people are now. So yeah, alhamdulillah, I'm blessed for that.
So normally, as you guys know, we do this session for 1 hour. Today, me and Ben went off on a tangent. I basically cut it off at 1 hour. And I just looked at it right now, it's 1 hour, 40 minutes. So we're definitely going to have you again, and I promise to keep it 1 hour.
Inshallah.
My plan is to keep it short but consistent every day.
Yeah, yeah.
1 hour every day, and just happening. So what's the last piece of advice based upon your experiences of someone who's a non-Muslim, who became Muslim, for the people online right now in terms of giving dawah?
Giving dawah. Don't be shy. Well, one thing, don't be shy to talk about Islam, with not in a pushy way. Just go, yeah, I'm Muslim. I do this. We think this. Don't be shy about it, because a lot of Muslims are. And when you see a new Muslim, do two things: make an effort, even if it's a small thing, and try and think, if I was in his shoes or her shoes, and try and have empathy for that person, and understand, like you said with the sister that had a problem with the drink and all that commotion. And then step back, think about it. The whole life drinking is normal. It's not a taboo thing. It's actually encouraged. And then suddenly you're not allowed to do it. Come on. So have a lot of empathy and just make a little effort, and Allah will make it easy for you to make it easy for them, inshallah.
Excellent advice. May Allah bless you. May Allah make everything easy for you during this lockdown. And I'm going to get you to come again, inshallah. You can bring the EF shirt if you give me one as well. And,
I only got it because I asked for it. I'm not anyone special. I'm a revert that contacted them and went, oh, I'm struggling.
I'm going to pull Hamza's ear until I get one as well. And definitely get you to basically speak about different aspects of your story. And also, when you get your YouTube channel, we'll share it across.
I've got it. I've got a few videos on there as well. I've got one about being a revert and having tattoos stuff. Just search Ben Iqra. Maybe you'll find it. There's two videos on that moment.
Excellent. May Allah bless you. Jazakallah khair. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.